Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show, 11:30. The Tiger, he's Rogers, I'm Patrick, and we're pleased to welcome in upcoming Hall of Famer. Already a Hall of Famer in my book in so many ways. Always butter up your guests before you get them on the air, Rogers. He is Aaron Taylor, the great. AT, what's up, my friend?
What's up, man? That's what you call buttering up? That was it?
Well, I mean, I could go on. Ladies and gentlemen, a Super Bowl champion, a first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers, a two-time All-American, and one of the best damn human beings in the business. He is Aaron Taylor.
Now we're talking, Pat.
Baby.
Now we're talking.
All right, so, one of our favorite things is always what happens when you get the call. Walk us through that. Who gave you the holler? Who gave you the call? How did you find out that you were going to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame?
I'll make this promise to you. As soon as I get that call, I'll let you know, man, because it ain't happened yet.
Really? They don't.
It could be somewhere buried in my voicemail. I have no idea, man. The way I found out, yeah. So it's been crazy. So I got COVID last week and came out of quarantine, I guess, on Thursday. It was a very mild case.
Okay, good.
I'm a trooper and do a pretty good job. Only thing I lost was my sense of smell and taste, which was a silver lining, bro, because the pizza and the ice cream don't have no flavor.
Yeah.
So I didn't eat no pizza and ice cream, and I'm down like 12 pounds. I digress.
No, wait, hey, but here's the thing, Aaron. This is what I like. See, that's a great diet plan, right? You can't smell or taste. Food doesn't taste good. You lose weight. The problem is our morning show host, I think, gained weight while he didn't have his sense of smell or taste. So I don't know.
I don't know.
For you.
I don't know what type of COVID he got, but he didn't get the good one.
Yeah.
So I had to quarantine away from my wife, so she called me on Saturday this past weekend. It was like, hey, did you get in the Hall of Fame? I said, I don't think so. She's like, I'm looking at a football here that says otherwise. I'm like, what? FaceTime me. So she FaceTimed me and showed me the ball, and I was like, I'll be damned. Maybe I did. So I went on the NFF website and saw that they were going to make the announcement on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, man, maybe somebody's going to call me. But that call never came as far as I know. I had a pretty full voicemail. But I'll tell you this, brother. Unquestionably, the best part about getting inducted in the Hall of Fame are the 300 to 400 phone calls, texts, and emails that I got.
Yeah.
And probably a 3-hour window, dude. The genuine outpouring of support and love and genuine adoration and congratulatory text that I got was over the moon, man. I'm still floating on it. To know that I impacted that many people and just that many people care about things I care about was so damn humbling and honestly the best part of this whole deal.
So did you see the CBS one when they told Romo that he got inducted? Did you happen to catch that?
I did because it was after I had found out. And I'm like, that son of a bitch is stealing my thunder.
Well, my favorite part is Nance is surprising him, right? He quote unquote surprising me, like, Tony, you're going to receive a football here in just a little bit, but hey, you didn't know this, but congratulations, you're being inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame. And Romo's like, yeah, I got that football like 3 days ago. So I already knew.
Exactly.
He ruined the surprise.
Yeah, so there was something that was going on with how they sent the footballs and the timing. I don't know. I still haven't taken a picture of it, and I need to call Steve Haskell from the NFF and just say thank you to those guys. I've done it publicly, but indirectly via social media, man. Yeah. But I got to tell you, dude, it was incredible. But, I mean, and Nance got into the Broadcaster Hall of Fame, so CBS sent out an email with the 3 Hall of Famers, me, Romo, and Nance, and I'm still waiting to figure out how we're going to get matching tattoos, just the 3 of us Hall of Famers.
Yes, I love it. You have to put in your induction year, right? Yeah, you have to put that on there somehow. CFB HOF 2021, I think is how you do it.
Well, one of those dudes is a $17 million a year guy. The other is $7 million a year guy, and I'm like a .00007 million a year guy. So I still got some room to go.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing: when y'all go up there, make sure they buy the meals.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully by that point,
but
hopefully by that point, you've gotten your sense of smell and taste back, so that you can actually eat and enjoy yourself. Look, obviously, congratulations, man. You know, we love you, and I'm super excited for you. No one, I think, has the passion for, especially the offensive line that you do. You know, it's come out and y'all putting together the Joe Moore Award, which is greatly. I mean, you heard Saban talk so glowingly about it, how it's the favorite award that he feels like his team can win because it's a group award, not an individual award. So, man, I'm so happy for you, brother. You deserve it, and for what you do for college football and with college football, no one more deserving than you, man.
Man, I appreciate you saying that, Patrick. When we, in year one, man, when we were getting our branding and marketing taglines and all that stuff together, a very good buddy of mine who's recently passed from brain cancer, unfortunately, he was in charge of all of that. And the phrase that he came up with that captured the essence of what our position and I believe the sport of football is about is, I am because of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, brother, with those 400 texts and emails and phone calls I got and people I hadn't talked to in 25, 30 years, that statement has never been more true than it is for me in this light of the Hall of Fame announcement, man. The football is a sport that it teaches you things you can't learn any other way, and I'm so grateful for all the help that I got along the way. And that's the thing I did, man. When Lena, my wife, called me and showed me the ball and I figured out I got in, I sat down and I wrote down every single name of every person I could think of that played even a small, seemingly insignificant role in me being a Hall of Famer. And there were 100-plus names on that list. I've talked to probably 15 or 20. My intention is to call all of them personally and just say thank you for believing in me or helping me or cooking me food after Friday night games in high school. For my buddy's mom, it's just an incredible, incredible team effort for such an individual honor.
Tell me, what do you need me to make sure I include in my speech to induct you into the Hall of Fame? What do I need to include in that speech?
Probably that pot of beans recipe I saw you put out on Twitter the other day, man. That'd be a great place to start.
Okay. I'm just saying, look, I'm available to induct you. I know you probably don't have many people who you would have in mind to do that, but I'm available to do it if you need me to. I learned from the greatest, Timmy B, that I am more than willing to take credit for something that I have no credit in taking.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough about me, but let's hear what you think about me.
That's correct. That is correct.
Oh, I love it, dude. You would be great, man. I don't even know if that's going to actually happen. I know that there's an intention on December 7th, but that's one of the crazy things of this pandemic football that we're in. With the vaccine coming online, we obviously all have our fingers crossed, but that's going to be a hell of an evening, a hell of an event. With so many of us, you probably don't get a whole lot of time to talk or say much, but you'd be as good as anybody to get up there and wax poetic.
Hey, there you go.
I love it.
No, well, look, we can, if nothing else, I'll just get up there and roast the rest of the Hall of Fame class for you, just make you look even better by comparison. Hey, speaking of, what's up with the mean mug shot they used of you for inducting you? Like, what was that? What was going on there? You look like, I know you're a teddy bear. You're a great human being. You're a big, lovable, fluff of a guy. Why did they use the mean mug photo to induct you?
All right, you got to remember, Patrick, I played for a guy by the name of Joe Moore, right? Like, he was as surly and mean of a guy. So that was probably a picture that we took after practice. I don't know if I've got any pictures in college smiling because of what we had to endure on a week-in and week-out basis. I was an O-lineman and blocking guys every day like Chris Zorich and Bryant Young. You're not going to be in a happy mood most of the time. The killer, the thing that hurt the most, I think, was Notre Dame putting out the video that they did around the 93 game of the century with Florida State. And, they had NBC had that great open, man, on Main Street, and Bob Costas read it was phenomenal. But, like, the plays they put on there, I'm like, ooh, that's a minus. Ooh, that's a minus. Ooh, left, right elbow out, that's a minus. I was like, man, come on. They got to have somebody that can at least vet offensive line film.
Yeah.
It's the worst position for people, I think, to evaluate. Because when you watch the draft, I watch some of those things, and I'm like, I've seen tape on all these guys. What the hell are you showing that
Right.
for?
That's the great thing about it, though, and that's honestly why the Joe Moore Award is so unique in that you have a legitimate – you've got guys voting on that have a legitimate perspective on offensive line play. Like, yeah, I can look at it and go, oh, well, Alabama runs for a lot of yards, and, their offensive line is massive, and they just maul people. But I don't have the technical wherewithal to say, oh, well, look at how often these guys are stepping wrong to start with. Look how often these guys' hands are out of position. Like, I don't know that stuff. And so that's part of the reason why I like your award is you've got guys who actually know what's going on the offensive line picking this thing.
There's no question, man. And we put the criteria together in year one, and it was toughness, effort, teamwork, consistency, technique, and finishing. And that technique piece is a real critical one. So we look at how well guys are playing together. What do their first two steps look like? Are they in unison? How well do they win with up and down leverage, meaning their pad level, or with their hand leverage, meaning inside and out? How often do they win those situations? What do their play side base blocks look like? What do their back blocks look like? What do they look when they're doing B blocks and combination blocking the backside defensive tackle or defensive end on zone that's away to them up to the second level on the linebacker? Like, those things are the things that we look at. And Harry Heastand, who was, a direct disciple from Joe Moore and coached Mike McGlinchey and Ronnie Stanley and Quentin Nelson, and that great run of guys, including the 2017 offensive line at Notre Dame that won the Joe Moore Award that year, he puts it pretty simply. He says, it is impossible to be fundamentally sound playing the offensive line position. So when you see it on tape, you know that is directly attributable to coaching. So that's where we start.
Talking to Aaron Taylor. By the way, I've said this to every Hall of Famer I've ever had on this show, and I truly believe this. Once you're announced as a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. I know there's a ceremony involved, and they got to do all that, but to me, now that it's been voted on, and you have been elected to the Hall of Fame, you're a Hall of Famer now. I don't think you need to, if the ceremony got canceled tomorrow, you're in the Hall of Fame already. So congratulations. To me, you're already a Hall of Famer, no matter what ceremony is due to come or what may or may not happen. That's just my belief system.
I appreciate you. I'm a little offended you didn't think I was a Hall of Famer before this announcement, but we can talk about that off the air. It's incredible, man. One of the things that they send out is this piece of paper that says, since 1869 or whatever the hell it was, there's been 5.47 million people that played collegiate football. And of those, there's 1,026 and, a couple hundred coaches that are inducted. And when you do the math, it's 0.02% of the people that have played this sport at this level are inducted into the Hall of Fame. And somehow, I don't know what the hell film they were watching, but somehow I'm part of that, man. Like, it's mind-blowing to consider all of the good players that I played with on my teams alone or played against that had Hall of Fame-worthy careers or were outstanding collegiate players that don't, for whatever reason, have the distinction and the honor of being in the College Football Hall of Fame, man. And I am so grateful for the National Football Foundation and their voters for putting this together and seeing fit that something, look, I ain't played football in 25, 30 years, man. That hay's been in the barn a long-ass time, right? So to be honored all these years later for something I did so long ago has been incredible. But again, man, the camaraderie, the congratulatory texts from people that I impacted and played with and had conversations with and interacted with leading up to the Hall of Fame, I got there because of love and support. And here, all these years later, 30-plus years later, I'm still here because of that same love and support. And, man, I couldn't be any happier and more humble and more proud and more blown away than I am with everything that's taken place since Saturday.
Well, I will say this. You mentioned that you're going to take me to task for not already considering you a Hall of Famer. But remember, just to remind you how old you are in comparison to me, Aaron, I was 13 years old when you were playing in college. So I wasn't exactly breaking down offensive line film when I was 13 years old. I didn't know who the hell you were when I was growing up. So just keep you extra humble there. That's why I didn't know you were a Hall of Famer until yesterday.
Fair enough, and it was probably the same reaction I got from my kids because I came home 2 days ago when I came out of quarantine, and I didn't know if my wife had told them or not, and I was like, "Hey guys," I said, "I got a pretty incredible honor." I said, "I got inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame," and they're like, "Yeah, we know. Mom told us. What's for dinner?"
Yeah,
I was like, "That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's all."
Come on, man.
Yeah.
No cool points. Like your dad's a cool ass cat, right? And they don't care. They want to know what dinner was.
That's why Drew Brees said he's still playing right now, is because he wants his kids to know he actually played football. And there's something to that, you know. Hey, let's talk about college football in general. With kind of seemingly the same schools being involved in the playoff every year, we kind of know, Ohio State's likely going to be there, Clemson's likely going to be there, Bama's likely going to be there. Is there a real need for expansion at this point of the playoffs because, hey, let's get some fresh blood in there, maybe somebody that can shake something up in that system, or are those the same teams that are in there because they're the only ones that are worthy?
The answer is yes to both of those questions. There's a need for expansion, but it's economic. It's not because of parity. The reality is most personnel people I talk to in the NFL, they could do their draft off of those three teams you mentioned, plus probably Oklahoma and a handful of others. There is a significant gap between the elite in college football and everybody else. And even within the elite, as good as Ohio State was, as good as Clemson was this year, Alabama was just too good across the board with, let's be honest, an average at best defense. So we've seen Alabama win a national championship now 7 times with Nick Saban in every different which way possible. It doesn't matter. They simply adjust and adapt and overcome better than anybody. And it's a combination, obviously, of really good coaching, Dabo and Urban Meyer when he was there, and now Ryan Day, and certainly Dabo Swinney down at Clemson. Bob Stoops, what he did in the Oklahoma years, and now what we're seeing Lincoln Riley do. Coaching is important, but where those schools separate themselves is elite personnel. They recruit better than other people. Oklahoma's been in the dance since the playoffs started, but they haven't won because they don't have the defensive line and offensive line consistency that the other units have had, along with elite quarterback play. That's where the real difference is that you can lose a Tua Tagovailoa, but you've got Mac Jones waiting in the wings. You can have Jalen Waddle go down, but Devontae Smith says, no problem, hold my beer. You don't skip a beat, and when you have the offensive line production that they've had, you can overcome an average at best defense that got torched a lot of times and had 2 different teams score 40-plus points on them in Ole Miss and Florida and still found ways to win playing an all-SEC schedule. So, yeah, there's a lot of schools, my alma mater, Notre Dame included, that have to find a way to close that gap on the personnel side. But, yeah, I think it would be more interesting going to 8. But the real reason we need to do that is because of the economics. There are so many schools now that are facing $100 million deficits because of what happened with COVID that they're going to need to overcome that. I think it would be great for the viewer. I think we took a step a hell of a lot closer with the Rose Bowl not being played in Pasadena. That's been the only reason, and the major hiccup between going from 4 to 8 has been the bowl tie-ins, because when you go to an 8-team system, it's going to blow that up. So I think we're a hell of a lot closer, and the economics of COVID is going to push us over the top. We're going to get there a hell of a lot quicker than we thought accordingly. Speaking of the economics of COVID and college football in general, this is, I think, and I've talked about this repeatedly, I think I'm the only sports talk host out there that mentions this, that the economics of college football and colleges in general, college athletics in general, are really, really messed up. And it's because they are a quote-unquote not-for-profit business. And in order to hold on to that amateurism label, and I'm putting that in air quotes as well, in order to hold on to that amateurism label, they can't keep money. They can't save money. Right. They have to spend it. So when money comes in, we need bigger facilities. We need a swimming pool. We need sleeping pods. We need a slide in the field house.
we cannot hold on to $100 million in case a pandemic hits and we need some money to draw back on, because if they did that, suddenly everyone understands it's not an amateur business model. It's a professional business model, and they are a for-profit industry.
And it's always been that way,
Yeah.
Patrick. And if you and I ran our own fiscal households like intercollegiate athletics, our ass would be homeless.
Yes.
So the reasons that they've been allowed to get away with it, it's the arms race that we've seen in college football isn't a preference. To your point, it's a requirement. They are forced to find ways to spend that money. And those of us that work on the TV side, we're the tail wagging the dog. The economics that the TV money has brought because of the popularity of the sport is really what's driving all this. So your point is a very salient one, man. We need to look at the model, the business model of the business of intercollegiate athletics, and stop pretending like it's something that it's not. And until we do that, we're going to find ourselves in jeopardy, and that's why I think we're going to go to an 8-team playoff model so that we can finally figure out a way to maybe find some equity and have some stability economically. Because here's the deal. When COVID hit, the intercollegiate athletic bubble burst. But COVID wasn't the problem. COVID was the pin.
Yeah.
The egregious over-the-top spending was the problem. And when you have coaches that are getting paid these exorbitant salaries, and God bless them, it's good work if you can get them, I'm not knocking that. But these schools are so desperate that they want to join that elite trio of Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama that they overpay people that just simply aren't qualified to do that job. The wins and losses bear that out, but they're on the hook on the back end to pay those coaches out. Look at what's taking place at Texas right now.
Yeah.
Just to be able to start over, it's a $40 million price tag.
Yeah.
Well, where in the hell does that money come from? It's not out of the school or state budget. It's from the donor base, and then it just kind of self-perpetuates itself and becomes this conflated, inflated bubble, and COVID exposed all that. So my hope is, moving forward, we get that in check.
Well, the main thing I would like to see is just admit to the fact that, yes, we're getting obscene amounts of money. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to make a rainy day fund. And we're going to put $50 million because we've got all of that money. We don't necessarily have to spend $50 million on upgrading facilities. Let's put it in a rainy day fund. So if another COVID hits, instead of Barry Alvarez going out and saying, we got to raise $80 million because of the budget windfall, we're going to be short because we don't have games and there's no TV money. We have an actual rainy day fund. We have actually savings to go to, but they can't admit that, and they can't have savings. And it drives me crazy, Aaron, because they've got the money to pull themselves out of this. They just don't hold on to any of it.
Yeah, and to your point, there are some creative ways, though, that you can do it, particularly with the 501c3 IRS tax code, with which most of these guys operate, or something similar, right? The not-for-profit. And that's the thing. You can't have profits. You have to spend it towards your charter charitable mission. So, like, when it comes in, they spend it. They live paycheck to paycheck, if you will, and those paychecks were significantly compromised starting last March when the tournament got shut down. I mean, from that alone, there were closures and layoffs and departments getting eviscerated. There's some creative ways where you can stock money away. I think some of the unique business models or strategies that came out were what the Pac-12 was thinking about doing. Now, we know they haven't done a whole lot right, and Larry Scott, God bless him, he's getting paid more than any commissioner across the country and many head coaches, and has done probably the worst job about driving that product into the ground. But one of the things I thought they did a good job of was being able to leverage and borrow against future earnings and rights.
Yeah.
Almost a home equity line of credit, if you will, to be made available. If you needed that money, it's not on your books, but it is made available to you. So that's one of probably 10 different ways we could discuss here on this interview about how you can do that. But my guess is that's the way they're going to get their fiscal households in order, is make sure that they've got access to capital somehow and those mechanisms set up so that they can pick the phone up and within 3 days have access to that money.
All right, last thing for Aaron Taylor, newly minted College Football Hall of Famer. The induction ceremony coming your way a little bit later in 2021. I read an interesting interview with you about growing up and how you had to make a decision in your life. You were struggling, out in De La Salle. You were trying to decide if you wanted to actually continue playing football, and you kind of had that. You had that decision to make. Do you get up and go back to work, or do you stay in and call it quits? And I'm curious, you don't think about it in the moment when you're a kid, that there are life-changing, momentous decisions that are to be made that could irrevocably alter your future. And yet you faced that crossroads back in the day in high school. Just kind of talk through the idea that even as a young kid, you made a decision which ultimately altered your life and definitely for the better.
Man, that's been something that I've had a good long 4 or 5 days to really chew on and think about. And I've told that story quite a bit, when I'm doing my off-season stuff and speaking and get invited to talk. But the reality was, man, I was a DNF student at 14 years old, and I had gotten kicked out of the house. I thought it was better to smoke weed and hang out with my buddies at the beach while my mom was working the night shift as a pediatric ICU nurse, and I was going downhill quickly. And she sensed that, so in a last-ditch effort, she kicked me out of the house. And I was always a new kid in man. Every 2 years we moved. I was biracial, so I wasn't black enough. I wasn't white enough. I was too black. I was too white. I just really struggled fitting in, so I hung out with the lowest common denominator of the people that like to get high and party, and they were always willing to have one more, especially if I was contributing to the kiddie and to the party. So I stayed out of the house about a week. My mom brought me back and kind of helped me see the connection between choices, actions, and consequences. And that night on TV, there was this story about De La Salle High School across the bay that at that time had a 44-game win streak.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about the principles of, championship culture and togetherness and teamwork, and these Thursday night team dinners they would have where, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, see, Mom, that's the type of place I need to be. Well, unbeknownst to me, she reached out and through a whole kind of series of coincidences, man, we found a house right down the street from school from a friend of hers at work. She was able to change jobs that allowed her to make more money, that gave us a chance to be able to pay for the portion that wasn't covered from financial aid and all the fairs and weekends that I had to pick up trash around the school and all that stuff. But I go out there for that first practice, man, and I got dog cussed for 3 straight hours. And I come home after that first practice. My mom says, hey, how'd practice go? And I didn't say a word. I went right in my room and I shut the door and I started crying. And she let me cry for about 10 minutes. She comes in and said, talk to me, baby. What's going on? And I'll tell you what, Patrick, I sat there and told her what had happened. I was like, Mom, I like, if the play went left, I went right. If the play went right, I went left. I was like, I couldn't do anything right. And I started crying again. I was like, I think I've made a mistake. I'm so sorry. We came out here. We moved. You've worked so hard to give me this opportunity, but I cannot go back there and do what I just went through. And what she said next would start the course of a life that I could never even imagine, man. She said, Aaron, you got to figure out if what it is you want is worth the price you maybe have to pay to get what it is you want. Are you going to let them and their words and the challenge and the requirement win, or are you going to let your dreams win? She said, I don't know what your decision is or what you're going to do. I don't care if you play football or not, but I think you do. I'll make breakfast in the morning. If you get up and eat, I'll know your decision. And if you don't, I'll know that too, and I'll never say a word to you. And she shut the door. Man, let me tell you what, brother. I sat there on the edge of the bed wondering what in the hell I was going to do. How did I get myself into this pickle? How was I going to find a way to endure what I went through? I was so scared. I had so much self-doubt about what it would take and require and how in the hell I could muster that up a second day in a row, let alone the entire damn season. So I didn't sleep a wink that night, man, and I had a lot to chew on. And somehow, some way, I got up that next morning and I ate breakfast and I went to practice. And I got my ass dog cussed again for about 3 straight hours, but I made a couple blocks. And that next day, I went back to practice, and I made a couple more blocks, and then I made a couple more. As it turned out, I was pretty good at blocking, and I was pretty good at the sport of football. I just didn't know it yet. And I think about that moment sitting on the edge of the bed at that Y in my road, the Y in the road. And I think about, what if I had succumbed to my fear? What if I had succumbed to my self-doubt? Think of all the relationships and the people and my wife and Super Bowls and the College Football Hall of Fame and working for CBS and like all the going to the White House, having a frickin' college degree. All of those things would have ended had I succumbed to the fear, had I succumbed to the self-doubt. So for all of us and the listeners out there, we all have these Ys in the road, and we don't know which ones are going to lead to the life and the outcomes that we want. And that's why it's so important that, and I've come to understand that the gold in our lives lies just beyond where we're afraid or we're unwilling to go. And that's why when we come to those Ys, we have to say yes to our destiny by willing to risk everything. If you want it all, you got to be willing to risk it all. And that's what I did at 14 years old. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm going to get my fat ass up out of bed every day since and doing the same.
Remarkable. That's all I got to say about that. I will say this, though, Aaron, because you know I can't let a powerful story go without a laugh. I will say, while you were coming to the fork in the road and choosing the right path, I came to the fork in the road, picked it up, and ate cake. That's the difference between you and me, my friend.
I love it. I'm just surprised that they let somebody with such small biceps into the College Football Hall of Fame. There's no question I'm the Hall of Famer that played with and still currently has the smallest arms. So I can put that feather in my cap, and maybe I picked up too much forks and ate too much cake along the way, my damn self.
No, I think being a two-time All-American and winning a Super Bowl ring and being in a first-round draft pick, I think your biceps are just fine, my friend. What I just wish everyone could see is how you look when you let your hair grow in the off season. I just wish everyone could see that.
There's some things you can't unsee, man. It's like if a homeless person in Sasquatch had an illegitimate child, it would look like me in the off season.
It's beautiful. Aaron, you're the best, my friend. Again, congratulations so much on the award. Obviously, we know we love you. We're proud of you. And you've always been a Hall of Famer in our book, even if we didn't know it was for your on-the-field prowess. You're off the field, you're a Hall of Fame guy as well. And you know we love you, brother. Congratulations.
I appreciate you, Patrick. You only saying that because it's true, man. God
That's right.
You.
That's right. And because I know the next time we see each other, you're picking up the tab for dinner. So that's all.
There's no question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have Nance and Romo Venmo us both.
Beautiful.
They make more money than all of us. And the three amigos are three Hall of Famers.
There you go. Hey, look, as long as your biceps are strong enough to pick up the check, that's all I'm worried about, brother.
I love it. I love it.
AT, you're the best,
Netherton,
man.
Strikes again. All right, buddy. Love you, man. Take care.
Aaron Taylor. That's good stuff, man.